Since September 2017, every day has, of course, been Rusev Day. WWE even released a calendar noting just that. But sadly, that's not all they ended up releasing. Rusev was let go from WWE in mid-April as part of the shock mass releases due to the pandemic, cough wanting to make more money, cough. Leading those who still observed the daily international holiday to ask, is it called Miro Day now? But unfortunately, even Miro, Rusev's real name, is no more in the professional wrestling world, as he's revealed he won't be going to AEW, he won't be going to New Japan, he won't, in fact, be going anywhere. I'm done, man. I'm just enjoying my Twitch. I'm a professional Twitcher, YouTuber, content creator. I'm not a wrestler anymore. Can I be your favorite streamer? One last time. Rusev Day. Best of luck, Miro. I heard one of the best ways to grow your audience on YouTube is collaborate with other YouTube channels in your niche. Come on, Quizzlemania. Eric Young was also released by WWE at the same time as Rusev, but rather than give up on wrestling altogether for drinking energy beverages and playing Fortnite, he returned to Impact Wrestling to feud over their world title and shoot on WWE at every available opportunity. After already calling his former contractor broken on Busted Open Radio, Young has now told Vince McMahon off. To Chris Van Vliet, if you have a 3-hour pro wrestling television show and you can't find something for me to do, then you're failing as a leader. Plain and simple, you failed your company, you failed the shareholders, you failed the fans, and you failed yourself. I would tell Vince to his face, you failed as a leader, you can't find something for Eric Young to do. And it seems the stock market is finally realizing this too. Brandon Ross, Richard Greenfield, and Mark Kelly of Lightshed Partners, a technology, media, and telecommunications research company, have issued a fascinating report on WWE's falling ratings, share performance, and more, and it paints a damning picture for the company. Like on the big money deals covering up deeper financial problems. The domestic TV network renewals for Raw and SmackDown were a financial game changer for the company, and the reason the stock crumbled is because international deals did not follow the same trajectory. On the falling ratings, the content has not resonated. Ratings have been disappointing essentially since the current deals were inked. In July, AEW was up 11% versus April on average. NXT has notably improved against both March and April in the past 2 months. Meanwhile, both Raw and SmackDown have taken another leg down in the past month, with Raw down 10% and SmackDown down 8% compared to the prior month, and both down 15% compared to April. And how, ultimately, for a content company, creative, and thus the head of creative, is to blame. COVID or no COVID, creative appears to be at the center of the issues. Vince McMahon has acknowledged things need to change multiple times. However, while there have been short-lived experiments, the content appears to continuously return to a similar formula under his absolute control. One of the largest problems we have identified is an inability to create new superstars. The big draws for major events have been in bringing back even older wrestlers such as Goldberg and The Undertaker. That is a band-aid, not a long-term strategy. Click the link in the video description below for a more detailed dive into the report, and make sure you tune in tomorrow because it's my favorite 4 times a year event, WWE's quarterly earnings report. Numbers. Well, McMahon will have to justify his firing of Paul Heyman to shareholders. But enough with the numbers for now, because it's time to review last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, which is huge in the 18 to 49 demo, in about 5 minutes. The show opened with the huge social distancing be damned match, a 10-man tag with the Best Friends and Jurassic Express teaming to take on the fully renumbered Inner Circle, now with 20% more Spanish God sexiness. This was one of the most anticipated matches on the show, which might explain why it was slightly disappointing. The comedy was Orange Cassidy's usual low-effort offense, which is in danger of going off without the live crowd now, and the superficial high spots failed to tie into a greater sense of drama. Matt Hardy picked his feud back up with Guevara, pushing him off the top rope into Luchasaurus's boot for Sammy to lose. Later on, an enraged Chris Jericho announced a rematch between him and Cassidy for 2 weeks' time, and a debate with a huge guest moderator, I hope it's Japanese deathmatch legend Luther, for next Wednesday. The rest of the episode, thankfully, worked much better than the opener, despite the saltiest of salty JRs on commentary, without Excalibur leading the play-by-play, presumably because of clips resurfacing of him saying the M-word in a wrestling program 15 years ago, something he already apologized for last year. JR's cantankerous attitude became overbearing on the show. I thought Taz was brilliant filling in though, where he somehow put over Warhorse, Cody, indie wrestling, AEW and the TNT title all at the same time next, which was needed as outside of Justin Roberts' excellent ring introduction, he weighs 4,000 pounds of raw heavy metal and he is here to rule ass. What does ruling ass even mean? Warhorse didn't get a pre-match vignette or promo like previous challengers to Cody. I really liked his presence though. It's like if the Ultimate Warrior could actually wrestle. Cody continued to be a heel who just shakes his opponent's hand right after the match, cockily doing push-ups in one commercial break, but it was the post-match that's important here. Warhorse tapped, and then the Dark Order ran down to attack them both, bringing out who? The next stage in Zack Ryder's evolution, Matt Cardona taking his shirt off as quickly as possible to show how ripped he's gotten in lockdown. I've also gotten that ripped in lockdown. Peanut butter has protein in. It's not surprising Cardona has joined his real-life best friend forever in AEW. Cody said last year that of all the then-current WWE roster, he'd like to recruit Ryder the most. It was rather underplayed without a crowd, and coming midway through the show though, the sweet life of Zack and Cody will team together against the Dark Order next week, which might be a nice dynamic of having Cardona go up against the Vince McMahon WWE parody faction, or maybe even turning on Rhodes. FTR had an awesome pre-filmed contract signing where they got Arn Anderson to read over the details as a tag team expert, for Hangman Page to toast them afterwards, which was followed by Page and Kenny Omega defending their tag titles against Evil Uno and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order. The match itself was typically great, considering the wrestlers involved, but it's the storyline context surrounding it that's so engrossing. Brody Lee pacing around watching on from the stage, Colt Cabana saying he's not in the Dark Order on commentary, he's just hanging out with the misunderstood Totally Fine group, Anna Jay now amongst their ranks, and Kenny and Page momentarily imploding when Hangman haphazardly started the match before Omega had made his way down. Omega and Page retained, which prompted the Dark Order to surround the ring, like a good version of the infamous December angle we don't talk about anymore, for the Young Bucks and, most awesomely, FTR to make the save. AEW's tag division is otherworldly. Their women's division, though, not so good. After a quick vignette in lieu of an entrance, Diamante lost to Shida in a non-title match, kind of stopping dead any momentum she had after last week's Dynamite debut win. Don't worry, I'm sure AEW are just waiting for their Deadly Draw Women's Tag Team Tournament to properly push the division, which they announced will be randomly selected, like Nyla Rose getting paired with Cameron of the Funkadactyls. We'll have this trophy to fight for, and we'll start on Monday on their YouTube channel. It's not even on Dark. It seems they're saving all the storylines for the world title instead, with MJF cutting an excellent presidential rally promo where he told his female assistant to smile more, it'll make her prettier, to launch his campaign to become our new world champion. Interestingly, he framed his opposition to Jon Moxley along ideological lines, not simply who is better than who. MJF is a wrestler's wrestler, he argues, whereas Moxley has instilled a culture of high spots and hardcore into the promotion. Mox vs MJF could be our all-out program, but before then, John has to get through Brian Cage and Darby Allin, because at the end of the frantic Tornado Tag main event, Mox and Allin stared each other down ahead of their title match next week. AEW is doing a superb job of having multiple feuds over one title at a time. And the main event itself was a lot of fun, with Allin being a smart babyface and jumping Cage and Ricky Starks during their entrance, Taz getting excited about Cage's trap chaps looking like pistons. They're like pistons, John. And one of the most brutal spots in company history, Alan winning after stomping a thumbtacked skateboard onto Ricky's back. That was this week's Dynamite in about 5 minutes. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments down below, where I'll be replying to people from out of Brian Cage's Pistons. Look at those pistons, John, the pistons. It's a mark of AEW's consistent high standards that a show with so much great stuff on is only really middle of the roads. The tag opener was a letdown, and the women's division an afterthought, but there was still plenty of terrific stuff to enjoy on this episode. This week's Dynamite is 3 out of 5. And now I've got some really exciting news. As announced on last night's episode of Quizzlemania, we will now be making shows for Cineworld's YouTube channel, who are one of the biggest cinema chains in the world. Aside from wrestling, movies are one of our biggest passions here. Fun fact, I have a master's in film theory, and we're starting this Friday at 3 PM UK time with a live-streamed movie-themed version of Quizzlemania, Cinemania. It took us ages to come up with that name. Click on the Cineworld logo on screen now to subscribe to their channel and enable notifications to always on, so you know first when Cinemania is about to start. We're all really excited to be working with Cineworld, and I really appreciate it if you could go over there and check us out over there on the new channel. And also watch the epic Quizzlemania 15 from last night, featuring the return of Sean Ross Sapp, by clicking the video over there. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.